We shall give it a minute and let some people join. What day of the week is it, Chris? Is it Wednesday?
What is today? I think today is Wednesday,
Yes, it's Wednesday.
but
We're going
yesterday
random.
was Monday, so it is going
Yeah,
by faster.
I feel like tomorrow's going to be Monday too. It's okay.
Yeah,
I love it. It's nice and sunny here in Ohio today.
we do
Well,
have a nice
a little
day.
breezy.
Well, the weather's picked up. It's been warm. It's 75 here.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, Chris and I are about an hour from each other, so he gets more snow than I do, and that's about the extent of it. But
I like the snow though.
3 foot. He wants a 3-foot day,
Give
people.
me a 3-footer at least one day each year.
It's 41 in Nevada right now. I'm sorry, Katie. It's all right. You can freeze during trick or treat with the kids. Bundle them up in their snowsuits. Otherwise, for those of you who are joining us, mention where you're calling in from, so we can enjoy your weather too. Uh, and we'll give it another minute or so as people are continuing to join before we get to talk about change.
Everybody loves change.
Nobody loves change, Chris. Nobody. I think this really has stemmed from a lot of our conversations, to be honest, of what we've had at conferences over the past. So, Katie said, not a change in the weather. Oh, but back to the conversation. You and I have been at quite a few conferences, and I think the common theme that we're hearing is business isn't great. Now's not the time to change, which there's differing opinions on that. And then the other piece is, well, I don't have the revenue coming in. It's just too painful to change, spending cycles and spinning cycles. I don't have time to take my team off unless you can prove to me why I should switch. It's just not worth the hassle because people look at change as hassle. What do you think?
Absolutely. And it's funny because recruiters are some of the biggest catalysts of change there are. Think of what, we as recruiters ask our candidates to do some of the most stressful changes possible, leaving an existing job where they may have personal, equity, potentially moving across country, starting a new role, building something from scratch. So like recruiters bring change to so many people, but often it's really hard to look at ourselves and figure out when does that change need to come for us and where can we reap the rewards and benefits of change going forward.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's amazing just to even be talking about this because it puts awareness to something that not a lot of people even want to talk about because they're like, if I can't fix it, I don't want to talk about it. So with that being said, I'm gonna be quiet. And then you can even, I don't know if you're gonna plan on sharing your screen, but I'm gonna put it over to Chris. Chris is the manager of our professional services, bar none, one of the best human beings I've ever had in my life, where he knows the product, he knows the challenges of you and your desk because A, we used to be where you are. B, we trained people just like you. And C, he gets to see it from all the migrations that are coming over and see it from a different perspective now. So Chris, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna let you talk and I'll even jump off stage.
Awesome. Well, Courtney, thank you so much. Like she said, my name is Chris Hess, and I'm the manager of professional services with Crelate. And I'm a reformed recruiter, we'll call it. I actually started off in the healthcare staffing world, moved into more fully retained work, spaces, worked in contingent, and through the course of being at different firms, looking at different processes, understanding different tech stacks, I became kind of the go-to guy to help understand what are the tools we have access to, how are we best utilizing them, in addition to running a full desk. So recruiter operations has always been first and foremost in my mind. And when we look at making a potential change, looking at an existing software you may have, or whether it's a CRM and ATS, and moving to a new one, the majority of the people I speak with, they come with a very similar experience. Hey, we have a tool. We know we're barely scratching the surface of it. And if that sounds like you, no matter what you're paying for that tool, you're paying too much. I joke that I was the kid when I got the calculator watch in 7th grade. I read the manual inside and out. I wanted to know everything it could do. Now, the challenge is you have a full time job. You are managing candidates and clients every day. You have so much on your plate, you don't have time to go through all the manual. That's where at Crelate, we like to come in and help with that change. Because when you look at moving systems, it is less of a tech initiative, but more of a culture and operations initiative. So my team is involved heavily with data migration, but also helping you implement the software as well. And often when we look at having those types of projects, we also want to start with how do you do this crazy business of recruiting? Courtney and I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of firms across the globe, whether it's training them, consulting with them, helping them grow their business. And while recruiting is not rocket science, the core concepts of what you do as a recruiter, it's not crazy. But there are no two firms who do it the same way. Everybody has their own take, their own approach. And what we want to be able to do is understand and sit side by side with you of how do you do this thing? What's working and what's not working? Where can we help bring best practices, some of our industry experience to bear to help you make that shift? Now, when you have change like this, I often think it's like, going down to your basement and seeing this mess every day and saying, I'm going to clean it up sometime in the future. Well, one of the best times to clean your basement is when you're moving. And when our team manages migrations, we really take a very similar approach. We're going to work with you to really understand what do you have from a data perspective? How does that actually tie into your process? What data is providing value to your business? What data is just clutter? Having a larger haystack does not mean you're going to find needles. Having an organized haystack means you're going to find needles. Having a structured process. And Crelate is a tool, and we'll take a little bit of a look at Crelate itself as well. It is more than just a repository for candidates and some notes. It is really the process management tool to empower your teams to develop and follow that recruiting process. What is the way that you differentiate yourself from your competitors? What is the way that you provide value to your clients? In addition to, one of my favorite parts is how can you implement a business development or sales process? How do you manage growing new accounts or penetrating existing accounts? And I think when you take a look at, your whether it's your entire tech stack or just the CRM ATS, we need to look at really your entire business as a whole. How can we ensure you are getting the biggest bang for your buck, getting the most out of it? I've been on your side of CRM and ATS selections, implementations. At one point, I want to say I spent about 2 years demoing like 70 or 80 different ATSs out there. I don't know if you knew there were that many. There are so many options. Crelate was the one I wish I had when I ran a desk. And coming on board, we've built a team of people like Courtney and I who've been recruiters, who've managed recruiters, who've trained recruiters, but who are experts in Crelate to help you operationalize your business and take advantage of every part and piece that works for you. So today I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk through, a high level sense for where and how Crelate can do some of that. But I think a lot of the value we bring is working with you side by side to kick it off. I've been on your side of the fence where sometimes, we move to a new system and they said, okay, hey, go read a couple things and good luck. That's hard, especially when you are busy, especially when you have things on your plate. Leveraging us to work with you to really understand and diagnose what are your pain points, what are you struggling with, what are ways we can help you unlock potential growth. That is our goal. We want to see you make more placements and make more money and help be a catalyst for your growth. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll kind of walk through some of the different components that Crelate looks to bring together. And I'm going to start on that business development side, especially in this post-COVID era, sales and growing new accounts. This has been a challenge I've heard more and more from firms. Often that post-COVID growth, I think, set records for many firms that I've talked to around the US, where they had record years, more placements, more revenue come in, job orders were falling off of trees. They couldn't keep up. And unfortunately, many people stopped selling. Never stop selling. Never remove that from your process because we all know in a blink of an eye that can all flip. So giving you the ability to understand your pipeline, get a sense for how are you targeting new business is paramount to continuing your growth and ensure that you don't just survive challenging markets, but you thrive in challenging markets. So, Crelate's business development enables you to create different campaigns or projects. Maybe you do MPCing of a candidate. You can create a targeted project specifically around that MPC to identify who are the companies that you want to market to. You want to build a relationship. Where do you want to pitch this candidate? Maybe you take more generalized prospecting as approach, where you will look at a specific geographic area, maybe a specific industry, and you're going to come up with what is a set list that I need to be able to manage in order to really see and get the most of that. So, business development, the idea here is we come together with a full process. Now, the processes we have within the business development stage give you that ability to define processes in your own terms. So, let's take a look here at a prospecting process I had put together. So if I want to grow and maybe I'm targeting, the Atlanta area, for example, and I really want to grow into a certain subsector of accounts, who are those companies I need to reach out to? Who are the decision makers I want to reach out to? And what is that process I'm going to use to manage my outreach and communication all the way through developing a relationship, getting agreements signed, and learning about job orders? So here we have a stage for targets. We have a stage for outreach, responded, pitch, presentation. And the great thing about Crelate is that's what I decided to call these. You can have the number of stages that fit your process, calling them to fit your terminology, but giving you the ability to very easily drag and drop records and move them through. Logging the appropriate activities, tracking the things you need, even so far as when, Maddie Davidson reaches back out and is going to set up time for a pitch, I can come in and actually have this go to my calendar. Maybe we're going to meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. It knows tomorrow at 3 p.m. is Halloween. Let's go ahead and get this sent out. This can go out as a calendar invite. Block time on my calendar. Give me the option to block time or send an invite to the recipient as well. So the entire workflow is driven around giving you a pipeline, giving you a process. And when we look at the sales and business development side, this is where I see so many firms struggle. And that's why I wanted to start here, because too many firms I've been with have a very structured recruiting process, and sales is like, go do sales, good luck. Give yourself an advantage, set yourself up for success, and clearly define what and how are you going to leverage this. You can even tie in sequencing. Maybe I've identified, hey, these are companies or hiring managers I want to reach out to. I can add them to a sequence. Crelate sequencing lets you add them into a multi-channel drip campaign to combine emails and phone calls and text and set up that cadence for continued outreach. So while the business development process lets you build your own workflows around client acquisition, the sales workflow lets you now manage job order acquisition. What happens when you learn about that new job? What is your internal process to, whether it's a job order intake or a NAP or whatever you may call it? How do you learn about what are the specs you actually need to recruit on? How do you track and manage that? All by dragging and dropping. So you can, again, develop what is the process that a job goes through, from I know this is open through maybe doing a job order. Maybe this is where we do contracts. Maybe now it's active, ultimately filled and placed. Crelate will also unlock a concept of forecasting. Forecasting has been a sales concept going back as far as I can remember, but most recruiting firms don't do that. Courtney and I used to work with a lot of brand new recruiting firms, very new, starting their own company. And if you remember back those far, that far to those days, it's always scary. Where's my money coming from next month, next quarter? How am I going to make it through? Well, you can leverage Crelate to come through and track what is the potential value of jobs. What do I think a fee might be? When do I think I might close that and start to manage probability? So forecasting will give you some insight into where is money sitting in your pipeline? How are they moving through your process as well? That brings it back to our recruiting. Just like with business development and sales, you can create a custom process. What does your candidate experience look like? And that's one thing I want to bring it to is when we talk about change, Crelate is really geared to help you configure it to fit your internal process, your nomenclature, the way you operate, the way you call things. So I can come through and determine, what does that candidate experience look like for me? What's the journey they come through once they've been sourced or applied? And just by dragging and dropping, I can manage them through that entire process. Maybe Aaron reaches back out and wants to set up a screen. I can drag and drop, pop a screen on my calendar, send an invite out to the candidate, maybe even build a screening form that comes through and encapsulates that. Even through, leveraging AI capabilities within a record. Maybe I have Stacy Adams, my director of engineering, Crelate Copilot will help give you some initial information. It's that little birdie sitting on your shoulder to help remind you, without having to dig through all of the notes, what are the things I need to pay attention to? Or maybe even giving you a head start by helping you generate or draft an email. Maybe I want to go reach out to Stacy specifically regarding a certain job I'm working on, a sales manager role, and I want to recruit her. Let's go ahead and have Copilot generate a concise email to help bring that forward. So, Crelate is really geared to help you further your process, help you solidify your process, as well as give you easy ways to track and understand what's going on within your business. Reporting was always something that I remember having to turn in manual Excel reports or even a physical piece of paper way back in the day where I'd have to like put little ticks down every time I made a call or had a screen or had an offer or submittal. Being able to leverage that, where at a glance you can have customized reporting dashboards to give you easy insight into your recruiting metrics, your sales metrics, and not just have numbers, but even dig in to ratios. What's the effectiveness of my team? It's great to know someone on my team is making 100 calls a day. We know people don't do that anymore like they used to, but what's the effectiveness of that? How many of those calls are actually turning into viable candidates and leading into placements? How long are candidates sitting in my process? What are the choke points that are slowing things down? Or maybe do I need to filter this to a specific client and go back to that client and say, hey, the 9 jobs we've worked with you over the last year, once we submit candidates, you sit on them for 2 weeks before you give us feedback. You're losing top talent. How can we help you with your process in order to help you find success? So Crelate is really geared to help bring all of that data together for you. And this really runs holistically. So we're looking from sales and business development. We're looking through job order management. We're looking through recruiting and candidate management. And if you work in the staffing world, we're even we even work towards the onboarding, being able to come through and have your onboarding process using Crelate to leverage really your checklist of items, whether that's what documents need to be collected, what forms need to be signed, what has to happen in order for this employee to be hired so you can put them to work. Taking that a step further, then using Crelate to capture time. So whether you're working in the staffing world, so maybe you're placing, IT professionals on a temporary assignment, maybe you're doing direct placement in engineering or sales or marketing roles, Crelate is really geared for your business. Recruiting is such a unique space because unlike most sales organizations, they don't have to sell to their product. If I'm selling cars, I don't have to convince the car to go. I don't have to spend my time understanding the type of driver the car wants. In the recruiting world, we have such a unique approach to our business because we have that two-sided sale. You have to be able to understand your client, who, yes, is the one who ultimately writes the check, their needs, their requirements. But at the same time, you don't manufacture your product. You can't go out there and make the right candidate. But your understanding, your tracking, your ability to have insight into your process can ensure you have speed to market, you are finding the right type of candidates and moving them forward. Ultimately, like I said before, Crelate is a process management tool. How do we help you unlock the power of your organization while also giving you access to that historical data, whether it's through search functionalities, the ability to log and track the right type of tags or forms on a record. Crelate is driven to help you maintain speed to market, finding the right candidates faster, developing those relationships, and ultimately resulting in more placements.
So,
Courtney, what you got?
well, I don't have any questions yet. It's a very quiet audience today, Chris. Um, I guess, how do I know it's worth the change? You showed me a lot of stuff that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to. Um, I love our reporting feature with the ease of use. The out of the box reports are amazing, and I think a lot of people valid like like that concept. It's very valid to them. But how do I know that it's worth the change? Like, people want an ROI. Um, any thought process of why is right now? Because a lot of people look at, well, the market's really tough. Um, we did a podcast with Govig and Associates, Jen from Govig. She's one of our guests, and she said now's the time because once we ramp up, you won't have time to do it. Just because there's so much to go along with this process. Do you have anything to chime in on that? Like, why is right now, and how do I know the change? How do I need to know? How do I know the change is needed?
Well, one of my favorite sayings, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Putting it
Yes.
off will not solve the problem. And if you look that, hey, you have a tool that you're barely scratching the surface, you're really not using it, you know it's not helping you, every day you wait is pushing that down. And that pile and that mess gets bigger and bigger. This is where we can come in, not only as Crelate experts, but as industry experts to help you go through your data also. Sometimes this is just too big a job for you as a recruiter, you as a recruiting manager, maybe an owner of a business to go in and figure out where you even need to go. Myself and my team, we've worked with hundreds of different recruiting and staffing firms around the globe. Being able to understand what are their processes, how did they do, where have they found success, how can we tie that together to help you have a uniform process? And there's two key things that I think are big. We want it to be simple. We all know recruiters, if it's not easy, your team isn't going to do it. So when we develop a process, it has to be easy. So I would say if today the way you do things, your process, it's not easy, or people are taking shortcuts. They're putting things in Excel. Everything is sitting in LinkedIn. And you, as a maybe a business owner or recruiting manager, have no insight in what's going on. Whatever you're spending on your current solution, it's a waste. Doesn't matter how much you're paying. You are not getting the value back from it. So is it easy? And second, are you getting the return? Do you have insight into your business to know where you're effective, what's working, and what's not working? Can you leverage the existing data that sits there? I talk to people who are coming from systems where they can't search across resumes. They've got 50,000 resumes in their database. They can't do anything with them because they're not searchable. Or maybe you have, over the course of time, created so many custom fields and tags and labels and things that it's just this overwhelming mess. And your team jumps in and looks at a record and they have to pick from one of 45,000 keywords and don't know where to get started. So they just don't do anything at all. Every minute you're delaying that, you're losing data integrity. You're losing the chance for you to capture good information. So much value happens when your team is on the phone speaking to candidates and speaking to clients. And if they aren't capturing that in the system that you as a business owner now own, you're throwing your money out the window. All of their time, all of their efforts are resulting in no net revenue and no net growth for you. How can we capitalize on that? So the answer is it's always the right time. Now may be a better right time, but if you do wait until you're too busy, that's just going to set you up for failure as well. Too many firms, and I've been on the other side of this as well, where we're so busy we just want to slam it through and get started.
Mhm.
You don't configure it for yourself. You don't know what you're doing in the beginning. You're not sure what you're doing when you bring data over. You try to cut corners. You want to do it cheaply, and then you spend a whole year being inefficient. Now, Crelate out of the gate, I think, offers things to keep that simpler for you, but you need to get it right the first time. We need to get you set up correctly out of the gate. So immediately you're gaining those efficiencies. You're having better insight to the information, and you're able to unlock that growth early. You don't want to wait a year later. Let's do it now.
I love it, and also, I'm putting it in the chat. If you heard me typing, I'm sorry. We actually have something. We have an RFI that we give out to people. So as you're debating if this makes sense for you, or figuring out your existing process and your workflows, and see if your technology aligns, because let's face it, how many times does technology overlap? And you want to scale your agency, this is the thing to use. So I put that in the chat. It is joincrelate.com/RFI template. That it would be something in a good use of your toolbox as you're assessing these tools. Amazing. Katie said, if you're interested in learning more about Crelate, how your company can earn more revenue. You can book a demo. It's in the chat as well. We'll stay on here. Chris, do you have anything else? Anything else off the top of your head before we let this wonderful audience go while we are waiting for them to ask any more questions if they'd like to see anything else in the product?
I mean, get a demo. Let's talk. Let's talk with you. Let's understand your business, really how we can help unlock some of the power for you. Ultimately, a good CRM ATS is the core to help you run your business. You're not going to drive a car without an engine, and if you get an underpowered one, you're not going very fast. How can we help set the core of your business up right? How can we ensure this thing is fine tuned for you to keep your teams efficient, to keep you moving along, really to keep you growing? That's where I think Crelate really needs to come into the equation. And that's where, for me, it's not worth taking shortcuts. It's not worth it because you need to unlock that value and potential. And we need to sit down and help you get the most. So your return is something you see immediately.
What's your favorite feature? If you had to just pick one, Chris, what's your favorite feature?
I'm a big fan of sequencing. So sequencing is something that we released last year, I believe, and that is the multi-channel drip campaign. And I think multi-channel for me is the important factor.
Mhm.
When Courtney and I would speak at conferences, people would always ask, there's email, text, LinkedIn, Facebook, calling. What's the best way to get a hold of somebody? Answer is yes, all of them. If you make just calls and you're missing the rest, you're missing out. If you're only sending emails and you're not reaching out on LinkedIn, you're missing out. If you're only sending emails and not doing anything else, you're missing out. Because everybody is going to respond to something different and they're not going to see 80% of the outreach you do. So how can we have a concerted effort that is going to run behind the scenes and either help you automate execution of your touch plan or to automate the planning of your touch plan? Imagine showing up every day and getting a list to say, awesome, here's all the people you need to call, LinkedIn, these automatic emails are going out, and it's just going to run. Maximize every minute you have in your day. That's the only thing you can't get back. And if Crelate can help save you time, that's invaluable.
I love it. It's one of my favorite features too. All right, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I don't think we have any other questions. You are amazing, and thank you for showing us around and how change cannot be scary and actually can be beneficial for our organizations going into 2025 and thriving. And I think it's a mind shift change. Wow, words are hard today. Mind shift change and really get us on track to excel. We've been pretty stagnant or going down or going up, but at some point in time, we're going to take off. We're going to go up the roller coaster, and hopefully you're ready and you have the right tools in order to do that and execute well.
Awesome. Well, Courtney, thank you so much. Appreciate the time to be here.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, everybody.